And we are now live, I believe. So with that, this is the second Autotask PSA tech chat we've had in the last few months, and I'm pretty stoked about this one because we're going to talk about some of the new stuff that's launched with 2017.1. So with that, I think I'm just going to kind of dive right in. Um, Quite literally, I'm getting myself logged in to Autotask right now, opening up my Authy app so I can get my two-factor key. I'm just curious, who here is using two-factor for their Autotask?
I really need to download a Crickets file for you.
Yeah, it's okay. Um, and that's okay. I mean, not using it is okay. I mean, as long as you don't mind people hacking into your customer database. Um, all right, so I'm going to share my screen once I get into the admin section. Here we go. So my goal is for kind of all of us to participate. So by all means, jump on in whenever you guys feel the need to. So here under admin in the service desk section, they've added this whole new section called ticket categories and then ticket checklists. Um, does anyone here not yet have the 2017.1 update from Autotask?
I still do not.
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
Well, hopefully you become excited about what you see in here, and someday you'll get it. Probably not before Monday, because I think they delayed it until after the ACL, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, the last time I got it, or I saw a notice from them, I think was the 25th of September. So
Got it.
it can be a while.
So I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the where is it? The ticket favorites, or what are they? Speed codes.
Speed codes, it's actually it's not under service desk though. It's up under the first one.
That's what I thought.
Form templates.
Form templates. Of
They're
course,
called
they've got a third name now: speed codes, favorites, and form templates. Pick one. Okay, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with these, where we can create a ticket form template and kind of go through here and fill all of this stuff out. And these have been great for years, and they'll still be good. You can still use them. However, when you are looking here at the service desk ticket categories, you're going to find a couple of things. One, I'm just going to open up my standard here, and I did edit this one as well. So one, you'll see that it has some of those features that you're used to when it comes to um, what you want it to fill out automatically. And you're also going to see that you have the ability to hide things. So if, for example, I didn't want the resolution on here, I just uncheck that box. I'll hit save and try it. And if I was using a normal web browser, it would have popped up the thing here. I forgot I'm using Brave and it's goofy. So I'll hit new. And here is where the resolution area would be. But it's not because I unchecked it. You'll also notice that in the main body, you have the ability to turn off the timeline. And you also have the ability to hit this little pencil next to the description so you can fill in what you want the description to be for a standard ticket or for a ticket with whatever category you're looking at. The same applies for these here. You can change your ticket type and you can change your ticket title. The ticket type is actually required or else it doesn't let you save the ticket. So here's kind of what I've set up as my standard ticket for the first page. You'll see it's got available form templates, speed codes, favorites, whatever you want to call them, checklists, change info fields, which these appear if it's a change request type of ticket. So there's a lot of information that you can fill out in here. Next on the detail tab, here's where you can really start to customize not only what's filled in, but what's visible altogether. So internet stables and video recording. Oh, no problem, Peter. Best of luck, and let me know if you have questions once the recording gets posted. He's got an unstable internet connection. So here's where again you can start to customize what you see in here, as far as what's filled in automatically and um, what you can even see. So you see here, these are all required. And then if we come over to insights, we can actually uncheck boxes. And if we uncheck these boxes, it will not display it. Always display even when empty is what happens when that's checked. Just kind of keep that in mind. If you're always displaying something, even if it's empty, then if you don't have, for example, a configuration item attached to a ticket, then this one right here won't have anything in it. It'll just be an empty box. So under details, this is where I come in and I kind of start filling out, all right, do I want to have a ticket category for a specific client maybe? And that's when you can come in, you can edit the company and the contact and things like that. I set a new status and a low priority, um, just because those are the most commonly used. I can always go back and change them later if they're wrong. Same with these three here. I set it to be a workstation break fix from a phone call, because again, those are the ones that are most used. Due date, I didn't play with this one. This is what they had it set for. I feel like 2 weeks is an awfully long time though. So I'll just come in here and change this to be 5 days. Excuse you. And we want to make sure it's always due at 5 o'clock. Estimated hours, I didn't do anything there because it could be a 10-minute fix or a 10-hour fix. I did assign my SLA. I assigned my queue and my resource. And I assigned my work type. Everything else I just kind of left. And then the same here under insights, I just kind of went through here and determined what boxes do I actually care about. So now if I come in here and I create a ticket, you'll actually start to see those things being filled in and noticing, status new, priority low, break fix, workstation phone, 5 days from now, SLA, queue, resource, and work type. So that's that. And then right here, this is where you can come and you can change this drop down. You can change it to a different category. So, I'm just editing the standard category right now, but maybe you decide, this is a managed endpoint deployment. And you see with this one, I've changed some of these around. So now it's a new install software. And you'll see now it's got a checklist. And you'll see these are important and people can come through and they can check them once the ticket's created. So also you've got the notification section here. Laugh all you want, TIT is Taylor IT Group. So so you'll see this is where you can edit any notifications that are being set out above and beyond anything that you've got configured as a workflow role. So any questions on this interface so far? I see one from Ian here. User-defined field default values. What's nice that I've found is making certain fields blank by default and making them mandatory to fill in before generating the ticket. This ensures certain fields are filled out on every ticket every time. That's a great idea, Ian. Um, I'm sorry, I'm very congested today. I don't know if I'm sick or if it's allergies. So that is a great idea, though. So obviously, the more information that you require will add to ticket creation time, but it will also make it so that way all of your tickets are as complete as possible. So I'll create this this ticket here. Just so that way we can kind of see what it does. Something's required, due date. So I don't have a due date on the managed endpoint, so that's something I'll have to fix. And this is probably because I'm using this Brave browser, and it's at 110%. There we go. So now that we're at 100% zoom, these are all lined up the way they're supposed to be. And you'll see some of these have exclamation points. These have to be marked as complete before you can close the ticket. So if you don't do these, it doesn't let you close the ticket without an annoying pop-up. So as you go through and work on something with an end user, or just on your own, you can come through and check the boxes. It doesn't matter in which order you do it, but you'll see that it timestamps it, uh, the date, the time, and by whom, which is also really helpful for figuring out, if something screwed up, who did what. What questions you guys got so far? Who has some input? Who is using the new system with and has configured some ticket categories? Regarding checklists, you can configure which checklist items are designated as mandatory to complete the ticket, which is great, and it records. That's exactly what I said. Can workflows set the ticket category? And did I see correctly that a ticket category changes can trigger a ticket type change? To answer the ticket type change, yes. So this says new install. I assume you mean by issue type. This says new install. However, it did say break fix before. So hope that helps. SRQ to INC or change types. Okay, so service request to incorporation or change type tickets. Incident. Okay. Yeah, you can do that for sure. Let's see here. Yeah, I think you can do that. Let's status complete, save and close. Yes. So if we come back here to general, ticket type, you see here, service request, incident, problem, change request, alert. I honestly don't use these. So I would love to know how you guys are using these values, because I don't have any clients big enough to where I've got like change requests or anything like that. And I honestly, laugh at me all you want, I don't know the difference between an incident and a problem. Uh, so let's see. We use the default slim down as much as possible, starting to use checklists more. We use workflows to push tickets to queues, set types, assign users, etc. And somebody asked when this new ticket interface is general availability. So Brett, to answer your question, um, it depends on where you are. Um, I'm West, America West, so I've already got it. looking to see if I can open that. I'm sorry, I'm East. You're right. Oh, good. 2018.1 release. They're already bragging about that. Um, they're bragging about that, and you guys still don't have it. So I don't see. I don't see like a. Here we go. So London, Australia, New Zealand, and American West. None of you guys got it. And America West, evening of a September 25th is when you get it. Um, I mean, I got mine. I don't know, guys. I mean, I feel really bad that it looks like most Autotask users just don't have it. So with that said, if you guys could just put something up on the chat, I would love to know who here is using 2017.1. Okay, good, good. Okay, so WW5 does not. WW3 does. You know, you're right, BJ. I didn't make a poll. Darn, shucks. I think maybe you guys can since you're all panelists. Who knows? Okay, so who else is able to share their screen and show off what they have done with 2017.1? I see Tony and Ian and Steve all have it. What have you guys done with it? Not much with the new stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about some old stuff then. Let's look at some workflow rules.
Hey, Steve, I'd
Yes,
throw
sir.
in a couple things through the form templates. When
Hmm.
you get the upgrade to 2017.1, they do have some configuration that you want to double check because a lot of my incident types and things like that got remapped. And you'll also want to check your integrations with your vendors. Maybe one reason why they're slowing the push out is because some of my integrations no longer work and the vendors are trying to play catch up with it. So just one of the things to pay attention to, based, you know, how you were talking about the form templates. I don't know if you touched on it, but the checklists, it's probably better to create them under the checklist section and then add a predefined checklist to a form template rather than making a separate checklist per form template, because some of them you may want to reuse over and over again on different form templates or
That's a
categories.
good call. And I didn't even think about the fact that you can create a checklist in a form template, but it doesn't have to be saved as a checklist template. So
Correct.
that's where it gets a little extra confusing is um let's see here. So if I come into service desk and I look at ticket checklists, you know, here we can make a checklist.
This is where I would recommend making them.
Yeah. And the cool thing here is I'm just going to edit my Office 365 checklist. You see that how this has a little book here? That's because if you click on the little book, it opens up a new window and it takes you to a knowledge base article, assuming you have said knowledge base article. So you can come in here, and when you edit one of these, you can associate a knowledge base article, and that's literally my first article being added to Autotask. I use IT Glue, but this may be a compelling reason to start keeping knowledge base stuff in Autotask. Do I want to have to manage two places? BJ, he gave it to us. No, I stole the article. I just literally copied and pasted it in there like 2.5 hours ago, just so that way I had something in here to show you guys. But what do I care? It's literally just me. I know it's Ernest stuff. I'm not gonna lie and tell myself I did it. So yeah, that you can KB articles, Autotask, helpful, checklist. Moving on.
The other thing, real quick, while you're on this topic of
Yes.
this particular stuff, the ticket categories, you can also choose which, like pick your MSP consulting per se.
Yes.
I don't know how many form templates you have, but scroll down all the way to the bottom of this. There is the available form templates tab that you can choose which ones you don't want available when you're in that category. So when you start having hundreds of form templates and only 4 apply, that'll help you decide that, narrow it down and speed things up so that you're only seeing the 4 that actually apply to that type of category.
Okay, that's cool. That is really cool.
So for me, it's going to separate out my mobile device repairs, my break fix, my on-site services, my maintenance plans, because I don't need to see my form templates for fixing a phone if I'm doing an on-site ticket or, a managed service style client. I don't necessarily need to see, whatever the case may be, mobile phones again. Just helps separate some things out.
Ticket category, you have to choose a ticket checklist that exists already.
Yes, in the categories you do.
Yeah. When creating a new ticket, you can make your own checklist for the ticket.
You can make them in form templates and in the new ticket itself. So 2 separate places, but those are one-time uses.
Got it.
So the form template obviously is every time you use the form template, but using it in a actual checklist will allow you to just simply click and import it into any ticket you want.
Right.
So if it's not something that's specialized, you definitely want to have it in that checklist window you were previously in.
Right. And sometimes when you get on the phone with a customer and they say, hey, Steve, I've got a few things I want you to work on. I want you to set up Kristen's email on the office computer. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. That's when you can create your one-off checklist right in the ticket. I actually just did that earlier. It was kind of nice.
So with checklists too, if you have one set here as a default checklist, it will show up in every time you create the category. It will show that checklist on every ticket that's in that category. Then if you go to your form template and add a form template that has additional tasks, it will combine them below the first checklist. So it will actually import both checklists into the ticket so that you can use both checklists from the category and the form template.
But what if each checklist has 20 items? Because they have a 20 item limit.
I didn't test that.
Fair enough. All right. Ian said he had some things he'd be happy to share. Ian, if you could unmute.
Hey there, can you hear us?
Yeah, you sound great. Would you like to share your screen also?
Yes. I'm actually Brian. I'm the new service coordinator here at CompuData. I'm kind of taking some work off of Ian's plate so he can work on some more important things.
Cool.
But I've actually been working a lot on the ticket templates and checklists and what have you. As you can see, what I've been trying to do is we have a lot of different services that we currently handle. We have system bills, we do sensor gnome bills, we have monthly maintenance, we deal with Lenovo warranties. So what I've been trying to do since I'm new here, is I've been trying to establish some standardization, and the ticket categories and the checklists have been absolutely instrumental in doing that so far. We're still tweaking it. We're still rolling it out. I'm experimenting right now, but I can show you, for example, a workflow that is very much all over the place, and I'm trying to bring pieces of it into Autotask as we start to integrate more parts of our business into Autotask, because currently there's a few different systems that we use. Things are recorded in different places. So, for example, if we're looking at our PC build workflow, you can assign your title, you can assign the name for it. This sheet isn't the most interesting. I'll show you the checklists that I've done for it in a moment. But what I can do in the details, I've added specific user-defined fields for date of order, invoice number. There's other things I've automatically set it to be an issue type, a computer, hardware, it's in-sourced. I've set due dates. So you can really configure this really nicely, as you've already been stating. And and also statuses. Scroll up, sorry, 1 second there. And then also, yeah, so statuses. Sorry, I'm just talking to Ian at the same time. So yeah, so this is an example of ticket statuses. So we've got a lot of statuses that can apply to a lot of different things. What we've done here is we've specifically trimmed it down to the only things that matter. And you'll see in the checklist, I'll show you how I've also made the statuses part of the workflow. But yeah, so for example, invoice number, when we generate an invoice, it's done in a separate system. So to make sure that it's being recorded on every single PC build ticket, I've made this a blank field, but it is required to be filled in before the ticket can actually be generated for people to view. So it has to be done every single time. So when someone is entering that in, it isn't missed. And I can show you what I've done with our checklists here. I'll show you the checklist that I made for just this purpose. Let's see here, PC build. So what I've done is, because there's a number of different hands that are part of the process right now, and everyone's doing different things, I've made it that by default, all the people who would be a part of this workflow are assigned as resources throughout this process. So myself, I'm one of the resources that's assigned as secondary. One of our sales gentlemen is part of it. Our system builder is part of the workflow. So anytime that's generated, they see that. And then you can see that step one, invoice is generated, invoice number added to ticket, and then when they're done what they're doing, is that they set the ticket status to waiting for vendor. Then when the parts are received, the next part of the checklist. So you can see each person is very clear what part of the workflow is their responsibility, and it's only their responsibility at those specific steps. And then the last thing, I know I'm going to be jumping ahead of you here. Something that I did is in regards to, do you have this, the PC builds dashboard thing?
No.
Okay, so hold on. I can actually, I can just minimize this actually. Here we go. So what I can show you here is I've got a dashboard that I've generated. Does it show up here?
That's a share.
Shared? Copy of the default. I made it a tab that I made public. Maybe I have to log into my Autotask instead of yours. Sorry, just give me a 1 moment here. I apologize. I'm going to log into my Autotask instead of his.
No worries, man.
Perfect.
And it's okay that you're jumping ahead. I like that we're just take it wherever, man.
So this is the dashboard that I've created because some of the people that I've been trying to get to start using Autotask, frankly, some people have been a little bit resistant to it because they have their workflows that they like to use. They don't want to start using another system, or because for someone who doesn't use Autotask very much, it's really overwhelming, all the information that can be recorded. So what I've done is I've created this dashboard specifically just for system builds, so that our system builder, this is the only thing he has to care about. Our secretary, sales, they can see where in the workflow things are. So this is the master list of every ticket currently that is a system build. Then down here, you can see what part of the process each of them are in. So these ones, this is the order has been made. That's it. once the order has been received, Cindy has gone through the entire list of the parts, made sure that everything is here and confirmed, then it is assigned to pending build status. Then our builder knows that this is now something he needs to get to. Once he has started building and he assigns it to in progress, then it shows up in this dashboard. So sales, if a customer is reaching out to us and trying to find out, hey, what are we looking at for this system? What's going on? Our sales team will know, well, he's actually been working on this, and this system. He hasn't yet started these two systems, and maybe they can get on his case about it a little bit. Invoice verification is when he's done the system build, he assigns it to this status. Then it becomes the secretary's job, go over the invoice, check it against the system build lists that we have and record all of our details on, make sure that everything matches up. Once she has confirmed that step, she assigns it to pending delivery, and then it shows up in this dashboard, which then it becomes my responsibility to make sure that we are booking a delivery. And once it has been confirmed delivered, the customer has received the product, the finished system build, then I assign it to be completed. So what I've tried to do is bring a bunch of disparate systems and people doing completely different things, all to use Autotask in as simple a way as possible for each individual.
And the best way to accentuate that is by making these categories. It's a lot easier because again, we just joined up with Autotask in February, so we're still kind of on our first half year. Getting people on it. I don't know how many of you guys have multiple, like we have a staff of close to 20 here. So getting people onto it was kind of hard. Categories have really helped that. It makes it super simple for everyone to just use it in general.
And something that I've been really enjoying with the ticket categories is I've only been with the company here for a month. So a lot of what I've been doing is kind of trying to look at how things are being done, and I'll straight up ask technicians, hey, is there a way that I can make what you're doing easier? Let's try and come up with a way to make this workflow standardized so I can take this work off your plate. All you need to do is enter in some information in a few fields, hit generate, and your work in terms of Autotask is done. You just have to click a few checkboxes, boom, complete the ticket. Just make things as simple as possible. Make sure that other people, they aren't wasting their time recording information, generating tickets. It's as simple as boom, 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 enter this, enter that, click, check mark, etc. But that's the piece that I have at this point.
Very cool. I appreciate it. So what I would like to understand better is, what are you changing on your categories? Excuse me. Are you just having it to where, I saw you added a couple UDFs when you've got it filling in some fields. Is that really the primary thing you're using it for? Are you changing what's visible in those sidebars much?
Yeah, I am actually changing what's visible on the sidebar. So for example, this is the standard layout. If I go to change this to be a Lenovo warranty claim, what will change here is a number of things. So now, let's see. I have set it so that I've added some user-defined fields. So it will specifically create fields for the model number of the device, the serial number of the device, the claim number that we generate when we generate the claim with Lenovo, and when we have a tracking number for the item as it's shipped to us, the warranty part, then that's recorded there. I have it default set to it being warranty work because typically that's what Lenovo stuff is. I have it set to by default be level 1 support queue. This stuff is still kind of up in the air how we're going to do the due date on it, but the issue type is automatically computer, it's hardware. So, and then let's say also I have the checklist here of all the things that need to be done as part of it. Then you can, and I have it set by default to show this, so the person remembers to quickly type something up here, something quickly to type up here with a little reminder. And then instead, let's go look at a monthly maintenance ticket instead. So if we switch over to monthly maintenance, this is named monthly maintenance. There is space here if they need to add any specific details. And then again, it's the level 1 support. I've set it to be work type maintenance. Then the contract automatically fills in when you choose the company that it's a part of. But then there's this checklist that loads here. So instead of it being the previous checklist for Lenovo warranty, it'll load up this checklist for monthly maintenance stuff. So you can set it, make multiple checklists yourself, and assign them to automatically assign to each ticket, like you were saying before. And also to the point you were mentioning earlier in regards to the 20 checklist item limit, that is not something you can work around that I've discovered. I've tried to find ways to work around it. Originally, my workflow for system builds was going to be incredibly complicated, but I realized very quickly that there's no way around the 20-item checklist limit.
Awesome. Now what about, excuse me. Now what about taking it back to, regardless of what version of Autotask you're on, what about workflow rules? Do you have a lot of automation taking place in your Autotask to kind of help you guys make this happen?
Frankly, no. Actually, that's something that I very much want to start messing around with. I've been doing a lot of different things here at the office, and I just haven't had the opportunity to get into that and figure out how that works. So I'll give you an example of something that automation would be fantastic for, is in the PC builds workflow that we have. There's a number of different people whose hands are in the pot for that. So I would love for it to be when I check off, when let's say sales has done their part, they've entered in the invoice, they've created everything, and they click that checkbox and they hit save. I would love for it to automatically set the next person in the workflow to be the primary resource, for example. But I haven't yet. I don't think any of us here yet have been experimenting very much with the automation side of Autotask.
I think I figured out why I was so quiet. My microphone was up here.
Oh,
Down here.
Ian's been changing settings since we've been talking.
Okay, so now that I'm not eating and don't have a microphone pointed at my forehead anymore, you sound great, Ian. Don't change a thing. So I like that. Now I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to show some of my workflow rules, and my workflow rules might be like the dumbest thing ever, but it's what works for me. And for those of you that wish you were attending another big webinar happening, I mean, it's not as big as mine, but they just announced what the Series 3 Apple Watch is going to look like. And it's going to have a SIM card, LTE, same phone number as your iPhone. Just thought you guys might want to know. All right, so I've got, let's see here. I tried AT Slack, and is Dominic in here today? No, he's not. So there's a gentleman by the name of Dominic. He is an Autotask user. He made an Autotask Slack integration, which I quickly gave up on because, let's be honest, it's really lonely chatting with yourself on Slack. So it had nothing to do with if it was bad or not. It's just really boring being on Slack by yourself. So looking at these here, I've got this one here. It will automatically assign tickets to me. So for example, if somebody emails in a ticket using the email to ticket feature, I don't have any conditions created by anyone. It just makes sure it's assigned to me. I'm the only guy, so it just makes the most sense to me. I don't want to have any tickets unassigned, falling through the cracks, anything like that. Customer note added. So what I do is because I hate when I have red tickets in the list. If I've got a ticket that someone just responded to, I add a business day to the due date. Because I hate seeing red, and that's literally the only reason why. Let's see here. Note time update for this specific company. I made sure that all ticket emails carbon copy the primary point of contact. So whether this person is the contact or not in the ticket, which I created this months ago, and I'm sure things have changed now that tickets can have multiple contacts. I just haven't gotten there yet. Note notify. So this one is literally just if I add a note to a ticket, send a notification to the contact on the ticket. So you see note added by Autotask resource, time added by anyone. As long as it's not one of these customers or one of these queues, then it uses my notification template. And my notification template, I've got a very vanilla notification template. I literally, if we come in here and go to service desk, ticket update, here we go. So this is what a ticket update looks like now. And it's been long enough, I think I can get rid of that. So it's got the note description, the time entry summary notes, and the attachment link. I put all of those in there literally so that way, regardless of what I'm using this template for, if it's a note, they get the description of the note, which is the body, not the title. All of my note titles, I just put note because I don't care what the title says. If it's a time entry, they get the summary notes, and if it's an attachment, they get the attachment name with a link. And then down at the bottom, I've also got the ticket history with formatting, and I want to change that to, what is this? I think that's Verdana. So I'll change that to Verdana. Nope, must be Tahoma. No, it's Verdana. It's just supposed to be bigger. Nope, too big. There we go. That looks right. Now it's just the wrong color.
The HTML, Steve.
Don't be ridiculous. I don't have time for HTML. No, I could just go in here and do the HTML, but that's so ugly. I don't like working on Autotask HTML because they screw it all up. They truly do. So there, now I've saved it, and all will be right with the world. And there we go. Hey, I know how to do a font size style and a color style and all that other crap. Just choose not to. Okay, so that's my template. Like I said earlier, it is literally just going to look like an email that I sent somebody. Because I want it to be, I just want it to be a regular looking email. I want people to want to respond to it. Notify customer of new ticket. I do have it notifying people using that new ticket created email template, unless it's in the monitoring alert queue. And then I've got three here for service calls being scheduled. Huh. Well, tickets are. Oh, it's because it's not active. That's why. So never mind. I don't have that one doing anything. Service call scheduled. View of setting the ticket category in a workflow. Yeah, sure. Here, I'll just edit this one. So this one, if a ticket is not new, and then I change the status to scheduled, which is something that I would do. I'm sorry, no. If the ticket's not new and I schedule a service call, then it changes the status to scheduled. Ticket category, you can have it change the ticket category in here as well with a workflow, as you see. That would be under the update section. It's just like everything else that you can do as an update. Then they've also got these actions down here, and they did add a new action for adding items from a checklist to a tickets checklist. So they did add that as an action. And then they also have something that people may not have even noticed. You can add a ticket to the primary resources work list, which is this thing here. So I hope that helps somebody. I need to use the work list more than I do. And yeah, I need to use the work list more than I do. John loves the work list. Well, that's good, man. So John, I'd love to know, how do you use your work list? Are you using it in a sense that um, uh, you've got all of your tickets, or do you just have the tickets that you're working on? So maybe you've got like 3 tickets you're kind of multitasking between, and you'll record, pause, kind of go back and forth between them. Got it. So might it be like everything you're planning on working on throughout the whole day, or just what you know you're working on in the foreseeable future, like of the next couple hours? Sorry. Again, not feeling well. I didn't want you to watch me blow my nose. Sometimes the whole day, sometimes my next efforts. It depends on the workload. I think that's a fair response. Um, so what about everyone else? I know we've got some people that are new to Autotask, and we've got some people that have been using it for a while. What kind of workflows are you guys using right now? You know, you see I've got ones that'll change the ticket status to scheduled and notify someone if I schedule a service call. Um, Waiting on customers, I'll have it add a day to the due date because, again, I hate seeing red. Push it into a queue based on client types. That's a really good idea. So my queues, I've got queues based on if it's remote, on-site, network, MSP consulting, that type of stuff, versus do I want to have it be like MSP break fix, that kind of stuff. I think you can change the client portal queue from the default. Incoming email processing. Should really rename this. There we go. Yeah, you can change the queue. Oh, you mean the actual client portal? That thing none of my customers use.
Steve, one thing you may also be forgetting is that the SLAs also work as a workflow rule themselves.
Okay.
So you can have them set up such that, you know, basically if there is a ticket with a certain priority or something like that, or it's getting too close to a time, that'll automatically assign it to another thing or do certain things. I'm trying to find.
That's right. So, you know, workflow. I assume you're talking about with workflow rules when it hits a certain thing with the SLA, right?
Yeah. So you can have it. So it's kind of interesting. You have to set, like here. Well, I don't really have a good one really at all. I was going to say you could use Watch Me, but I don't have anything really set up. But what you can say is you can set up an SLA within Autotask. So basically and I've set mine up such that any normal or higher priority items get assigned an SLA to them. Anything that's low or not normal or anything that's low priority does not get an SLA. And the main reason for that is it's just cut down on the amount of garbage that's produced from an RMM tool. And then from there, you can say in your workflow rules, you can say, oh, okay, well, if it's within like say 2 days of the SLA being hit, or if the SLA has already been hit, then assign it to a technician or assign it to somebody. In my case, let's see here, what have I done? Right task. Sorry, I'm trying to find. I've been watching yours, and everything's all different on mine because it's not the newest and latest and greatest. Where are the workflow rules? Okay, so here's a pretty basic workflow rule that I have. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can share the screen here. Yes, and I want the desktop. Yes. So what I got here, this is a basic workflow rule: assign normal and higher priority tickets to me. Basically, I don't care who it's created by because it's coming in via an RMM tool. Priority, basically, so long as it's in this list that I've selected, I would like to assign it. I don't want to assign a particular end user because they're just paying me for usage of the services. Queue name, basically, these are the ones that I don't want to see any sort of information from. So patching and updates, I know a lot of times with lab tech, it'll create a ticket and then it'll come back and close it later. Well, I don't care about that. I don't want to see it. And usually if there is an issue with patching and updates, it's also thrown up in the error logs or informational. So if it's just opening and closing, I don't care to see it. But then basically say, okay, I want to perform the following updates, set the primary role to me, set the work type to remote support, and that's it there. So what you get is, let's see here, if we go back to the main home, is you get a condensed version of all of the tickets that are currently open by accounts. Basically, I've set up such that all the tickets that are greater than lower priority, they're just over here in general. And now this lower priority means not necessarily that they're anything that is not just directly low. So like all these here that are just not so low, okay, this is a service that has stopped and I don't really care to see that the service ticket. And I know for a fact it's going to end up getting restarted or something like that. So there's no reason to really see it, but it's good to have an informational area there. And then these are all the ones that are just higher than normal, of which I need to prune some of these.
What on earth? Above normal, below normal, not so low.
So these are
were you on shrooms when you made these priorities?
Talk to the people at LabTech. Oh my God, they were on shrooms when they made that RMM tool, and it makes sense for a lot of things if and only if you can. But basically, yes, you got to be on shrooms to work with LabTech. It is a highly customizable, RMM tool. So take it for what you want. The nice thing about that is, especially with having so many priorities, is that you can very explicitly say, oh shit, something's down. I need this moved right up to as top as it can be. And you can do particular workflows for that. So say if you had level 2 technicians and you only wanted above normal priority and higher sent to level 2 techs, that's what you would use it for. Or even higher than that, critical and only for your tier 3s. Or basically have all your tech tier 1s deal with all the lower and all the noise basically, just to go through and check that things are working. One thing I set up, thankfully, to John Dyes, he finally got me into using SLAs, which has severely helped me stay on track and on top of things. And I think that's located here. I mean, it's not much. It's just the basic one configured by Autotask. You got to make sure that your business hours are set correctly. But basically, you can set up objectives for all different types of priorities. So like, say if I know for a fact I want all critical items to be touched within the first 8 hours, or I want a first response within 4 hours for critical and emergency items. Well, great, I can set that. And what that does is that will basically throw it into a queue here. So my day one within 4 business hours of checking, I can basically immediately go in here, click on the SLA due that are due for today, say, oh, great, okay, these are all the ones that have come in. These are the ones that, that may have not have been assigned to me just because they're low, not so low, they're below what my cutoff threshold is. But it gives me something to look at. It gives me a way to properly view tickets without being overwhelmed by them. A lot of times with RMM tools, you can be very easily and very quickly overwhelmed. Heck, when I first got Lab Tech, there was 1,000 tickets a day, and you got to print it down. So, yeah. And Tony saying, quick tip that made life a lot easier. Numbering anything could, i.e. queue names. So you have number 1 queue, number 2 queue name. Same for work types, make ticket editing and entry quite easier. Yeah. So, I got performance, informational, patching, updates, server status. Basically, try and break it all out as much as you can. That way, I mean, it sounds annoying, and it does take some time to set up, but the time that you invest is all time that you gain on the back end and throughout reducing the headache of your life. That's going to be ticket management, problem solving, and all that other bull crap. You don't spend an hour, spend a day, configure the stuff. It takes time, but it's definitely well worth it. So I think that's about all I had.
I agree with that completely. And I did not catch if you made note to, where did the chat go? Tony's idea. He said he numbers everything that they can. So like queue names, 1-
Oh,
remote
interesting.
support, 2- on-site support. Same for work types. So he said it makes ticket entry and editing a lot faster. And I bet that's very true, because for me anyway, I try to do like tab on my keyboard and then type something out. So if I could just do tab 3, tab 7, that would make it awesome. I mean,
right. Yeah, it just makes sense. And I mean, John mentioned the whole SLA thing to me, and I was like, well, that just makes sense. And I spent an afternoon working on it, and it's pared down the amount of stuff that I've had to look at significantly, and it gives me an actionable set, which is something that as technicians or as managed service guys, we need something that's actionable, to something that we can look at within a regular basis and say, okay, well, things seem to be running fine. And that's what I mean. For me, that's what I think, is more of a managed services guy. We need not necessarily, somebody can call you and pick up the phone, but it's a matter of, okay, what's going on? Is this subset of items that I'm looking at, are these bad? Are these good? Are these what? And that's SLAs help do that within Autotask. Assign them workflows to divvy them out, and away you go. So
excellent. What other stuff do you guys have configured in your Autotask? We don't have to be limited to just what is in 2017.1. I mean, what other stuff are you guys using on a day-to-day basis? What have you customized in Autotask? Tony said classification icons. So someone actually posted something on Discord earlier today and said, hey, how do I mass edit all of my clients so that way I can make sure they all have a classification icon? And, there's not a way to do it within Autotask, so you got to get creative. Export all of your clients for Autotask, make the changes in Excel. I mean, it still sucks that you can't just like select all and click a couple buttons, but at least you can do an export. Tony asked how you export, so I will show you. So I'm going to go into my CRM and into companies. I'm just going to search and I'm going to bring up all the companies. And there's this little box here with the up arrow. And I'm going to export this as a CSV. And you'll see that I'm on page 1 of 3, 1 through 50 of 131. So if I open this up, will it have 50 or will it have 131? It has 132 lines, which means one of the lines is specific to the headers. So you can export everything from there, and then in admin, we can go to companies and contacts. We can do the import. Sorry, there's like a little bug or something. And you see I import things all the time. So we click on import, and then you can download the import template. And this I will share on the screen. But let's see here. Look right here, guys. Okay. So we're going to look for, there's company number. Scroll lock on. There we go. Address, city, state, zip. Company type, classification. So classification is the icon. So here's where you can punch in what the classification should be. And that company export is going to export whatever columns you have. So for example, I had columns that had, where were we again? Here. So I had these in some of my columns. So I could go through and I could literally make every one of my customers have a new icon. And I probably should. It would be the smart thing to do, because if you classify all your customers, one, you've got a pretty icon you can look at. And two, when you are in the CRM and you decide you want to search for customers, you can search based on a classification. Now, if I recall correctly, you can make additional classifications, right? There we go. So we can make a new classification and we can insert the icon. PNG, JPEG, GIF, maximum dimension is 128. I'm going to assume that means square. And you're right, you can edit the order of some of these. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't edit or delete. I saw the little hamburger menu, and for some reason I thought that was the click and drag. But what you can do, you can hit the inactive button and you can deactivate some of these. So just because you can't delete them, you can at least deactivate them if you're not doing anything there. Somebody else mentioned contracts. You guys use contracts. I would hope you use contracts, because that's how you bill people. So here's a fun thing that people don't think about doing. If you are really, really either busy, lazy, whatever term you want to give yourself, you can make a time and materials contract for each break fix customer of yours. And here's why you might want to do that. So let's call this T&M Steve, and we'll do it for company name Taylor IT. Why do you hate me? It's loading and refreshing over and over. That's not at all annoying. Oh my gosh.
You might want to try reopening it.
That is awful. Let's make a new time and materials contract. Watch the icon, it's doing it again.
Interesting.
Let's see what happens when I do it in Brave browser. It works in Brave browser. So I wonder if maybe I've just got something goofy going on my Chrome that I just need to do a refresh or something. clear cache or whatever. I don't know. So there we go. Contract category, standard. We'll make it the default. We'll give it the first of this month and the last of this month because who cares? You can set it so that way it's automatically approving and posting without any review. Now, that's not always the smartest thing to do, but if maybe you're the only one doing the work or whatever, you can set it so you don't have to approve and post labor. So that's just kind of something to throw out there for you. When creating block hour contracts, you can tell it how many blocks you want it to create initially, but even if you don't create the right amount, as long as you create fewer than intended, you can always create additional blocks later on. If you create too many, I don't remember how big of a pain it is to remove the blocks versus just start all over. What else are you guys using? Nothing. You guys are using nothing. Cool. So does anyone here do any outsourcing to people outside of your company, or maybe just some subcontractors you work with, maybe some other companies you work with, maybe from a peer group that you're involved in?
I tried it once.
How'd it go?
It was great until you realized that the person you were doing work with didn't use a internal only note and emailed certain things to a customer.
Really?
Not you didn't email them. I emailed them to the customer because it emailed them the whole damn ticket status when I went to send an email. And because the original note wasn't a internal only note, it ended up showing up on the customer's email, which I don't think they really gave a crap anyway, but
fair enough. So
I was fishing at that point and whatever.
That's interesting. So when the contractor is communicating with the person that outsourced the work, if it's an internal communication, it really needs to be in an internal note.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah, because like, let me see if I can pull this up without anything else coming up. I think I might actually still have her on here. I've given her an extra chance. Did.
Now, what about anyone here doing inventory?
Inventory sucks in Autotask.
I don't do it. I don't have inventory. I don't even use the procurement thing, which I think is included.
Yeah, it sucks in Autotask. At least if you're using something else to manage your inventory, like QuickBooks.
Well, I think, do you mean in addition to Autotask to manage your inventory?
Well, so we manage our inventory through QuickBooks. You're supposed to be able to import that into Autotask, but the fields don't line up. And if the fields don't line up, you can't really import it without a ton of work. So then you also can't use categories in QuickBooks, or sorry, sub items in QuickBooks. You have to have everything on the baseline in QuickBooks in order for it to integrate with Autotask. It was nowhere near as easy as they said. Everything integrates really easily. Use our spreadsheet. So
I'm not surprised.
And they don't like the fact that you use somebody else to monitor your inventory. They want you to do everything, incoming, outgoing, everything done through Autotask. And then I'm sure it would work at that point. But for people that have two different resources, like some people have break fix and MSP on the back, like a guy in Wisconsin we know, he's using two different ticketing systems. Well, he obviously probably wants his inventory pulled out of a single source rather than Autotask managing everything. But
what about anyone trying to do any marketing emails straight out of Autotask?
I want to. Hey, Steve, if you want to switch over to my screen, I can show the how the thing sort of works. It works. We just didn't know how to use it. But like we were doing a web page quote, and I sent Steve a thing, and he can literally, because he's on Autotask, enter his own information in. And this is where we screwed up. Somebody used a new time entry instead of a note.
But it was time. I spent time doing it.
Yeah,
so that's why I did it that way.
You were being a smartass and trying to bill me for 4 minutes.
No, I wasn't actually going to bill you. Well, it says billable, but that's because I didn't.
But that's why I think that it needs to be labeled next time. Is that, you know, we only use notes until the actual invoice is ready for the customer, or you're doing something that's billable to the customer to see. Like this particular thing wasn't billable to the customer because that was the wholesale cost.
It was billable to you.
Yes. But in doing that, we ended up, I couldn't find, let me see if I can pull this real quick. Because I'll show you what happens when you do it. I might have deleted it now. Oh, no.
I love that ticket category, by the way.
What's the ticket category?
For lack of choice, choose this.
Oh, did it updated it? Cool. So when you change your category and like you were using it for something else, you end up with, changing it on everything that uses that category.
Yeah.
We could actually change this. Oops, wrong click. Here's the ticket categories that I have. Those will be the 4 categories that I'm going forward with. Actually, I need to have some more.
Interesting. So now I see something interesting to me anyway. Your company name, CAR011.
Yes.
What on earth does that mean?
So we had a privacy issue in our break fix shop 6 years ago. We used to ticket everything with customer name, address, and phone number. And it was kind of like a giveaway to the customer. You know, we put a little label on their computer with their identifiable information. Problem is, when somebody recycles it, we like to tag their computer as well. Their computer was too heavy for me to move at the time and got left up front. Somebody actually called the customer. So we no longer use their name, address, and phone number on the tickets anymore. We use a code, which would be the first 3 of their last name or the first 3 of their company name, and then the next sequential numbers. Theoretically, we should never have more than 1,000 people per code. If we had to, we'll obviously adjust at that point.
So what do you mean the next sequential? So are you saying that there are 11 or more companies that start with CAR?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, so like our MAR just got to 40 now. So I'd love to show you more. I mean, this is just a lead. So if somebody steals this, I'm not really worried. But I'm not going to share the whole company list. But yeah, they all start with that. And it's kind of neat because we know that if we're looking for that person's name, we can type CAR. It will actually narrow down the list to the people that have those things in common. So you may not always know the person's first name or if they used a company or anything like that. But if you know a code, which is somewhat easy to remember, we can, look for it that way. Only in our databases do they actually read like this. On our printed Dymo labels, they just have the actual company's name now. So, and the service ticket number, but it makes it a little easier.
Very interesting.
So I think we can go ahead and use a speed code because I'm lazy and made it. Oh, look, it doesn't show up now.
What?
My speed code to close. Oh, because I'm not. I was just going to use a speed code because we were talking about speed codes today. So I can go, and I made a speed code to close a ticket. It literally just changes all the information to close a ticket. So if
That's
I
kind of cool.
forgot to, I mean, I forget to close tickets a lot, and then I don't want to have to go back and edit it. It's easier just to click close the ticket if I need to modify this. Obviously, she's not being invoiced, and you can see I've used this.
So let me show you something that you may enjoy when it comes to I forgot to close tickets a lot, blah blah blah. So if we hover over the person and you view my workspace and queues, you'll see all these tickets have little check boxes next to them, and you can check them, right click, forward and modify, and now you can change the status on all of them at once.
Gotcha.
So just a little bit different. So with that, it's 2:16. Does anyone have anything else that you want to share? You have questions on?
I'm not quite sure I understand Tony's last question. This is everyone's default daily view that they use, question mark. This is the screen I live in. So I guess he's asking, is that where we live is that screen? I mean, I do for the most part when I'm standing by a computer.
I try to live in the dashboard.
I mean, if I were there all day, I wouldn't be getting the work done. So
So I just realized I was scrolled up a little in the chat, so there's a lot of messages for me to get through. You can deactivate, you can rename the defaults, but that's it. You can inactivate. Problems with audio, gotta run. Who's got good dashboards?
I do.
I'm gonna share. So I've stolen a couple of John's dashboard ideas. So here's one of my dashboards. I call this one service. So I've got one ticket due today, one ticket due in the next 7 days. I've got six tickets not completed on time. One ticket where the first response is overdue. You'll see here's my SLAs for the last 30 days. So for the last 30 days, I have met my SLAs. And then I've also got my hours worked. And you'll see that I've got worked versus billable. And I don't keep track as much as I should. I'm aware of this. But for those of you that do have employees and you require them to have the full 8 hours, then yeah, that'll be a good starting point. Expiring warranties are in here. All open tickets, tickets waiting on me, scheduled service calls, do this or else. Then I've got sales, which I don't use this one nearly as much because I don't sell, as you can tell, this quarter versus last. So active opportunities, companies that I have not spoken with in the last, in 6 months or more, ready to post stuff, ready to bill stuff. So those are my dashboards I've got here. John, do you have anything in addition to that you'd like to share?
Let me look at it real quick and see. I'm not sure what information is shown on mine.
So while you're doing that, Tony, to answer your question, why do I have tools set up under CRM? The only thing I can think of is because it's new with 2017.1. John, how are your inputs getting to the client? Via invoice or some other method?
Are we talking to me?
Yeah. How are your inputs getting to the client? invoice or some other method. So if you input a note or a time entry, how does the client see that?
Oh shit, I don't. My clients and I don't talk through the dashboard. It's most of my stuff's done through the old-fashioned way of picking up a telephone. If I need to tell them something, how did the internal note accidentally land? So Stephen wrote it as a billable time item, and he included internal information on it. It was a client that we were unlikely to land, but we were practicing on Autotask with him. And the client, how do you get those to the client though? Oh, so the reason why that ended up with the client is because I wanted to send them a note through Autotask by using the add email feature down at the bottom of the ticket for a particular note series I was typing. So when I typed that note in, that single note that said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? The customer got a whole list of everything that was going on in the public ticket. So it was not expected that it was going to include everything. I thought it was just going to send that one singular note out, but it gave a ticket history with the note.
Which you can change if you so choose. So Eric asked the question, do you build a single contract for a client and put all of your services under it, or do you build a contract for different services? So here's an example of a contract for one customer where I am hosting 2 websites for them. I bill them for both websites at the same time of the year, so I just made a single contract to do it. Here is another customer, and you're going to see just one contract for them. And if we come in here to services, you'll see a few line items in here, and this is what I bill them monthly. So I'm billing them yearly items and monthly items all in a single contract. And that yearly item of 120 is just getting split up amongst the each months.
The thing that I would recommend for anybody looking at the contracting is make a contract for every paper or electronic contract that they sign or service that is separate of itself. So if he was doing web hosting and wasn't billing them on the same schedule and he was just doing a singular annual payment, then he would, put that in there as, a web host, and then he would have his MSP in there as a second contract.
Right, absolutely. So this client here, I've got one for web hosting, and this is billed annually. And then they've got my basic service, which is billed quarterly, actually, for this one. So yeah, I do separate them out based on, if one thing's getting billed monthly and another thing's getting quarterly, annually, or maybe even they're both annually, but one's in January and the other's in April. I mean, they're separate contracts as far as I'm concerned. However, that one where it had multiple line items, I mean, that was an MSP client, so I put everything into the MSP contract. Multiple clients per contract with a base TNM. That makes sense for clients that you're billing them TNM. However, my MSP clients, I include everything for the most part.
And yeah,
separate
Eric,
contract for anything that has a separate addendum paper contract. So, and I guess that's where my opinion differs from both of you. And again, I mean, we have different companies. We're allowed to run them however we want. However, if we look in here at services, you will see it has a history. So you'll see when changes went effective, what was changed, that type of stuff.
So the addendums to a current contract, I would put under the current contract. I wouldn't separate that out the same way that it's an addendum that goes to the paper, but a new paper service, as if you're selling them antivirus under one contract and then selling them backup under another because they're 2 separate services billable at separate times or whatever, unless you're going to combine them as the same contract. I kind of look at it as if you're doing the same thing, like if you're a managed services client and you go in and add something to their account, then I would say that yes, it would all end up under the same contract. If they were going to hire you for a time and materials contract to do cabling, you would want to throw that into a different contract. Don't use that as an addendum with a single one-time bulk payment. So same way you would do it now. I mean, you don't send them the same invoice for 10 contracts at the same time. You send them one invoice for everything that's relating to the contract. And that's what Steve, that's what Steve's doing, whether he can say yes or no. Maybe I'm not explaining it right because Steve.
No, you did it correctly.
Steve looks confused.
I feel confused. That's what happens when you do a webinar under the weather, folks.
Why is my phone ringing?
Because somebody's calling you.
No, nobody was calling me. My phone just started ringing. So yeah. Let me share this since I kind of took you off of your dashboard thing. So the service desk I use is pretty much the same as Steve's because, well, to be frank, we wrote it together. Mm-hmm. So this one I made because I want to manage my contracts in a screen. My goal is to have Autotask push this up to a TV screen that's above my head so everybody can see what's expiring, what's not. I'm small, so if the numbers look small, that's why. My 28 contracts expired. 27 of those are just bit defenders that haven't been renewed yet. But I like to know how many businesses, and it's got like, ideally we want to see 19 residential contracts at this point. We have 6. We want to see 9 business contracts. We have 1. We want to see, 3 to 5 backups only. So they kind of color code themselves to show you what's good and bad on them. Obviously, contracts expired's bad, contracts that are expiring soon, so that you can click on those and actually see what the contract is. So you can go in and say, hey, look, I got 2 bit defenders that are expiring 9/14. So in 2 days they expire. So we need money for those or they expire out. It gives you an idea of where your focus currently is. So I took the bit defender out of that, and we can see that my residential is, has more contracts under it than anything else. And then it also shows upcoming renewals for antivirus, which is generally like residential, MSP and Office 365. This is things that are expired or expiring very shortly. My list just is organized backwards, apparently. And then I come down here with my Office 365 focus, and then also active to-dos. Who has the active to-dos and why do they have active to-dos? So I could click on that and see what to-dos that person has and see, why they still have them. Problem is the 2 big offenders don't have accounts with me anymore. So mine has 3.
But what you can do, John, is if you click on like Joel Sherman, for example,
I could delete them, yeah.
Or you can reassign them.
Yeah, true. You'd have to edit it to reassign it.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd rather delete it.
But then you lose the to-do.
I don't need the to-do. They're all old. Nobody clears out their to-dos. The to-dos are from when Joelle worked here. We needed to have to-dos so that when I closed a ticket, she knew to print the invoice.
Okay.
So if there's no Joelle, there's nobody to print an invoice, so I have to do it myself.
Okay. So I think that does that answer everyone's questions? I've got one more thing if it does. Okay. Sounds like I've answered everyone's questions. Who will be at? Hey, that's a great question. Who's going to be at Autotask Community Live? So for those of you that don't know, there was this big thing called a hurricane recently. It's called Irma, and apparently Irma went through Florida and did some damage. And Autotask seems to think it's not going to impact Community Live whatsoever, which means I will be at Community Live. I see Eric, Creekor, John, you'll be there, right?
Yeah, it's long as they say as long as I fly into Fort Lauderdale, I'll be good. So if nobody got the ACL notice, they recommend you fly into Fort Lauderdale because apparently MIA may have problems this weekend.
I'm not surprised by that. So, with that said, I fly in Saturday night, and if anyone wants to get together for dinner or drinks, I'm not buying, but I'm happy I'm happy to get together with people, and we can do some meet and greets, get to know each other better, and talk shop or not, whatever you guys want to do. So yeah, I'll be there Saturday. Feel free to shoot me a message on Patreon, Facebook. I'm kind of everywhere.
I fly in on. It looks like I'll be in Fort Lauderdale at 9:15, so I should be next to Steve and with Steve somewhere around like 10:30 maybe. And if anybody specifically wants to see me for whatever reason, just let me know so I don't forget you, or let Steve know because he's more important and remembers better.
I don't know about that second part, but I am more important than John.
In your own mind.
So with that said, I do want to thank all of you guys for attending. If you liked today's webinar, or if you missed any of today's webinar, or you just want to see what else I've got going on, please go to mspwebinars.com. You'll have an opportunity to watch all of the past webinars from there. And then there's also some really cool bonus content that I've added, which anyone who subscribes to Patreon on my account, you guys will get access to that. So please feel free to check it out. Subscriptions start at $1, and literally, if you just want to give me $1 a month, I'll give you access to a bunch of stuff. And that's that. This is kind of a new gig that I've been doing for a couple months, and it's working really well, and I'm enjoying it. I've got almost through December scheduled. And if you go to Facebook and search for MSP webinars, you will see all of these scheduled events. And I do try and keep everything up on the MSP subreddit as well, but I don't always keep that one as up to date as the Facebook. So with that said, thanks so much. I do hope you guys enjoy your Tuesday. I'll see some of you again on Thursday for our next webinar with Ray Orsini. We'll talk about voice over IP phone onboarding. I'll see some of you guys this weekend and early next week for Autotask Community Live. Webley definitely prefers, Webley, this bear right here. There we go. He definitely prefers Autotask. Shut up, Webley. Yeah, Autotask Community Live. I'll see you guys there. And then next week we've got Scan Circle doing a webinar, and I think Scan Circle is going to be cool. It's a very break fix looking plugin for a website at first glance, but if you think about it, you can have your potential clients go to your website, click a button, scan their computer for issues, get a big long list of issues, and then you can say, hey, look at all this stuff that we wouldn't have an issue with had you just been on one of our managed service plans. So I think it'll be a cool sales tool. We've got a Kaseya Tech Chat coming up the week after next. I think it's the 28th. Yeah, 28th. And then just a ton more coming up the next month and the month after that. So thanks so much, guys. You all have an awesome week. Make good choices.